Greetings. I'm Steve Cole, pastor of the First Methodist Church in Oswego, Kansas, and the West Mineral Methodist Church in West Mineral, Kansas. Today we're going to be looking at a sermon for December 17th, 2023, the third Sunday of Advent, and looking at part of the Christmas story that many of us have heard many times before, from Luke chapter 2, verses 1 to 7. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. And everyone went to his own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth into Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and the line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to a firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. May God add a blessing to the reading, the hearing, and the understanding of his word. And then in Malachi 3:1 it says, "See, I will send my messenger who will prepare the way before me. Then suddenly the Lord you are seeking will come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant, whom you desire, will come, says the Lord Almighty." You know, there was a prophecy that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. The religious leaders knew that when the wise men came to try to find the newborn king of the Jews, and the religious leaders knew that Bethlehem was the place, and they quoted a passage from the Old Testament that was the case. So that's where he's supposed to be from. But Mary and Joseph live in Nazareth. And God sent an angel to both Mary and Joseph, said, "You're going to have God's son." And yet they live in Nazareth, and Bethlehem is 80 miles away. Now, if he's going to be born in Bethlehem, how do you get them from Nazareth to Bethlehem? Well, interesting. Caesar Augustus has a census. Everybody's got to go register their hometown. Guess where Joseph is from? Bethlehem. So that gets them to Bethlehem. And they just happen to be in Bethlehem at the time that Jesus is born. How about that? God has a way of working things out. You know, there was one year when I was going to college at K-State, and it came to be time for Thanksgiving. I decided I was going to drive home. I don't know if it was the day before Thanksgiving, day of Thanksgiving, I can't remember. But anyway, just so happened that this particular day it snowed. We don't usually have snow that early, but yeah, it happens, sure. And it was snowing, but not too terribly much, and so I decided to drive home in the snow. It's about 55 miles from Manhattan to my home, and so I took off, driving down the road, and I was on I-70, somewhere between about halfway, just west of Topeka, and all of a sudden the car starts acting kind of funny. It didn't seem to be right, and all of a sudden I pull off to the side of the road. My right front tire was flat. Well, no big deal. It's not that big of a deal to change a tire if you have the right tools, a jack, lug wrench, and a good spare. Well, I had a 71 Mach 1 Mustang with a very small trunk. Didn't have room for a full-size tire, and so it had what was called a collapsible tire. This was back in the days before they had donuts. They had something other than that. They had a collapsible tire that didn't have any air in it. And there was supposed to be a little canister that you could hook up to it, and it would blow the tire up. The canister was not there. That's one thing. Well, it did have a tire pump. Yeah. It would take a little while, but you could air up the tire with the tire pump. Okay, that was okay. That would work. So I get out and I get ready to get it jacked up, get ready to take the lug nuts off, and the lug wrench that came with the car was broken. It wouldn't loosen the lug nuts. Now what do? Well, it just so happens the highway patrolman came along, checking on me, and he had a lug wrench, so he helped me. He let me use his lug wrench to get the tire off and put the spare on, and then I got the tire pump, and of course there I am on the side of the road on I-70, cars whizzing by in the snow, but it worked, and I was able to get home. Yeah, hadn't planned on that. And I guess I really wasn't fully prepared to have a flat tire, was I? Before we go on a trip, even a short one sometimes, we have to make sure, everything is okay. We might make sure we got enough gas. We make sure we might check the oil. We might check the tires and, do whatever needs to be done. And if we go on a longer trip, we'll look at a map to see where we're going, or today we use the GPS to figure out where we're going to go. And if we're going to go for a few days, so we got to take some clothes along, right? Have to pack, get all those things put in there. And we might have other things that happen. We might have some unexpected expenses. So we might need a little bit of money to be able to, wouldn't want to be short on money. And if we're going on a trip that requires flying on a plane, we got to get to the airport on time and have everything, boarding passes and all the other things like that. You got to get a shuttle or a taxi or rent a car. Preparations need to be made. And if we don't do those, we can have problems. But despite sometimes, even though we've made all the preparations that we can make, we still have problems. Things that we didn't prepare for. We can prepare for just about everything, but not everything. Mary and Joseph have to take a trip. They're going to have to go from Nazareth to Bethlehem. Now, that's about 80 miles. Now, for us, 80 miles is no big deal. We get to 80 miles in an hour and a half or so. First century, 80 miles. Even if they traveled 20 miles a day, which they probably didn't, because it was pretty rough terrain, it would take 5, 6, 7, 8 days to get from Nazareth to Bethlehem. We don't really think about that sometimes, about how long it was going to take them, and I'm sure they had to make a lot of preparations ahead of time. You got to have food, you got to have probably camping, whatever people needed to. There wasn't going to be any place to stay on the way. You'd have to camp out on the way. Now, we often think that Mary rode a donkey, maybe. But there's nothing in the Bible that says Mary rode a donkey. We just kind of assume Mary rode a donkey. She's probably around 9 months pregnant, but we don't know. But she may have walked. Who knows? Yeah. So they had to get all these things taken care of ahead of time. But one of the things that you do, that we make all these arrangements, and one of the things that something that we probably do when we're going on a trip is we try to make arrangements for where we're going to stay when we get to where we're going. Although there's some people that, I'll find someplace to stay when I get there or on the way. Don't really make reservations ahead of time. But once in a while you show up someplace in that situation and rooms are full. No place to stay. And that's what happened to Mary and Joseph. There was no place to stay. Now, Could they have made arrangements ahead of time? Probably not. It wasn't like today you can get on your phone and call and get a hold of or get on hotels.com and get your reservations made. You just had to show up, and and we don't really know. We kind of think that they showed up and the baby was born. Jesus was born just right after they got there. Well, we don't know. They may have been there for several days. We really don't know for sure. But regardless, there was no place to stay, whether it was an inn or a family home or whatever, because we really don't know exactly where it was. It's just the Bible only tells us that he was laid in a manger and there was no room in the inn. Right? And the inn could have meant lots of different things. So the time came, and he was born. And our tradition says that he was born in a stable. Well, the word stable is not really found in the Bible either. It just says he was laid in a manger, which we put together. Okay. And if you go to the Holy Land, they will take you to a church, and in the church there is a cave, and then the cave is said to be the stable where Jesus was born. Well, okay, that's fine. We won't worry about that. Yeah. But despite all our preparations sometimes, the unexpected happens. And all of us are on a journey. Mary and Joseph were on a journey, but we're all on a journey. Not necessarily a trip, but a journey called life, that we're traveling through this life, going, and a lot of times we can make all the preparations we want, which is good to do, but sometimes things happen that, wow. And, as we go through life, when we find out that we're going to have a child, we go through all those preparations. We get the crib, and we get the diapers, and we get all the clothes, and we get everything we need for when the baby comes. But you know what? Still, the unexpected happens. Things that we weren't planning on. And they go off to school. Again, we buy all the books, and we buy the supplies, and we get the clothes, and we do everything we're supposed to do. But, every once in a while they come home and they say, I need this. We didn't plan on that. Those things happen along the way. And one day they take off and go off to college, and we make the preparations and get everything done. But every once in a while they get a phone call, say, I need some money. I need to buy this, or need to get that, or yeah. Yep. There's always those surprises along the way. And then one day they decide they're going to get married. More preparations. Got to do all those things to get that all done. I did a wedding one time for someone. They prepared everything. It was going to be an outdoor wedding. And middle of July, or in July anyway. And thought everything ought to be nice for that. But but it was, that particular day came and it was like 107 degrees. Wow. People going to be in suits, and the bride in her wedding dress. Oh boy. Well, and everything just about went wrong that could go wrong. The microphone system that I was using just before the wedding at the rehearsal worked just fine, but when it came time for the wedding, the microphone did not work. Well, that was one thing. Then there was a gal that was going to sing a solo, and halfway through her solo, the CD player that she was singing, that played the music, stopped altogether. And then we got through all that, went to where the reception was going to be. I had a place rented. The air conditioning didn't work at like I said, it was pretty hot. No air conditioning. And then there was supposed to be a fairly nice meal for the food didn't show up. What were people going to eat? And we were not in the town where you could just go down the street and find something. This was a remote area, a small town with no restaurants in town. But you know what? They've been married for over 15 years, and they're still married. So, despite all that, the well-laid plans of mice and men, right? Wow. We think about it when we're in our 20s. We go, one of these days I'm going to have to start thinking about getting ready for retirement. We just think, one of these days. 30s, same thing. We just kind of like, one of these days. 40s, well, I'm going to get started on this retirement thing. You got to get some money saved up for retirement. But, you got kids and you got expenses. So you kind of put it off. And then when you get in your 50s, you say, oh, my gosh, I should have done this already. And, of course, by the time we get our 60s, it's too late. Now, the good thing for me is the United Methodist Church has a fairly good pension plan that the money was put away for me. I didn't have to do it myself. So that's a good thing. Yeah. What do they say? It's not that we plan to fail. We plan to fail. It's that we fail to plan. Right. That's the good old life insurance salesman quote. Yeah. Right. Well, God sent an angel to Mary and Joseph to prepare them for what was coming. He said, "You're going to have this baby," but could they be fully prepared? For what was going to be. Here Mary was a young gal that's engaged, but not married yet, and she ends up pregnant. And Joseph decides to go ahead and marry her anyway. And who's going to believe this story about angels and God's Son? Yeah. So I wonder what all they had to put up with as they went through all that. And they may have thought this was a simple trip to Bethlehem. No big deal. We'll get there and back in time for the baby to be born. Surprise! God had other plans. Wow. God was with them as they went on their journey, and God is with us as we go on our journey in life. He didn't promise that the journey is going to be smooth. He just promises that He'll be with us as we go through the journey. It says in Psalm 23, even though I go through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for Thou art with me. Right? Yeah. Here, this is Advent. Time of preparation. Time to prepare for Christmas, for the coming of the Christ child. And as we get ready for Christmas, we make lots of preparations. We put up the Christmas tree, we put up the lights, we buy the gifts, we get ready for we make cookies and candies and get ready for the families to come over, get ready to go travel to be with our families. We've got all kinds of different things that we do to get ready for Christmas. In the process, do we prepare a room for Jesus in our hearts, in our lives, in our time of worship? Is there room in our hearts to celebrate Christmas? In the first verse of Joy to the World are the words, "Let every heart prepare him room." And there's a verse in Revelation 3:20. It says, "Listen, I am standing at the door knocking. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in and eat with you and you with me." He wants to be with us. We just have to open the door and let Him in. Well, the good thing is He's always there. He doesn't leave us. And for that we can rejoice and be glad that Jesus is the reason why we celebrate this time of year, as He comes, as we celebrate Him coming into our world. Well, thank you for coming and putting up with my ramblings today. And we hope that you can have a blessed Christmas season and that things are going well for you. And we know that God goes with us to guide us, lead us, and help us today and every day. Amen.